You guys ready to go? You guys,
Yeah, yeah.
are you guys okay down there?
Yeah, we're okay.
Okay, I'm gonna call this meeting to order. And so let's go ahead and start with our flag salute. We're gonna go right here. We're here.
Yeah.
Join me in flag salute. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll go ahead and go to a roll call, please.
Hopper. Yay. Johnson.
Yep.
Wiggler.
Here.
Farina. That's. Nate.
Here.
Alexi.
Here.
Herzog.
Here. All right, just one. Okay, welcome everyone. Good to see you. Welcome to the final charter review committee. This meeting is open to virtual and in-person participation. Am I coming through okay? Okay. If you are attending online at the appropriate time, please use the raise your hand function. If you called in, press *9 to raise your hand and the clerk will call you in the order received. Each commenter will be entitled to 3 minutes. I will now open public comment for any matters not on the Charter Review Committee agenda. And so we'll start with people in the room here. Denise?
I just have a quick comment. It's not even related to the charter review, but I just wanted to remind people, I heard on the radio today that they're still collecting signatures for Prop 13 and to be able to keep it. I don't remember the exact address, but if you go to Joe Patterson's website, he's been sending out emails. So could be costly for us in the future, but just thought I'd pass that on. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Cheryl, I know you know your name, but could you state it for the record? Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Did that get in the recording? Yeah. Okay. All right. Any other comments here in person? Okay. Anyone online?
You do.
Okay.
Hi, how are you all?
Good.
Go ahead and make your comments, please.
Sure. My name is Aaron Rudolph. I live in District 4. Thanks for hearing me today. Never been to one of these before. I'm looking at what's happening right now in Penryn with the Hopeway project, and it scares me. And I'll tell you what I think maybe you all can do about this. So there's a community that has a clear plan with rules written down. I see the Board of Supervisors getting ready to toss that plan out the window because the developer pushes hard enough and the state puts pressure on them. So when the community understands the Housing Accountability Act and the state laws that has identified what we think are clear health and safety issues is going to create a big issue for this. So it seems like the rules don't really matter if 3 supervisors can vote to ignore them. So I think you guys have a chance to fix this in the charter. So here are the 2 things. I'm asking you to put these 2 things in your report to the board. First, making it harder to break the rules. So if a project goes against community plan, even with waivers, a simple 3-2 vote shouldn't be enough to approve it. So make it a supermajority, 4 to 5 votes. You're going to change the character of a whole town and ignore health and safety issues, at least make it a supermajority to do that. The second, stop taking state mandates at face value. We just keep hearing RHNA numbers, state is making us do this, but I don't see anybody really checking that. That's not either a paid attorney by the developer or the county themselves. So get a lawyer who doesn't work for the county or developer to look at it and tell us if we really have to approve it. So in general, get a third-party opinion for things that matter like this. Include this somehow in the charter. So, yeah, recommend a supermajority vote for rezoning. Make it a requirement for independent findings on projects that would override basically every local rule there is for an unincorporated community like Penryn. If you can incorporate those in the charter, I think that'd be great. Thanks for hearing me.
Thanks.
Here's the.
What was his name?
Well, yeah, that's what I was gonna ask.
Yeah,
you.
my name's Aaron Rudolph. I live in Penryn, so I'm District 4 with Suzanne.
What can we say?
It was Aaron. It's Aaron.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Aaron.
you.
We have talked about that topic at length. And I'd encourage you to take a look at our minutes and see what we've discussed about that in the future. Anyone else online?
Yes, Chair.
Yeah.
Diane, go ahead and unmute your mic and make your comment.
Thank you. This is Diane Louise Alessi from Christian Valley Park Community Services District, 60 years in this county. First of all, I just want to, I'm disappointed, of course, that more teeth were not put in this charter. And I think kind of a standout here, just to alert this committee, that there was some misinformation or dissuadement, part of Clayton. I know you're the path of least resistance referee, but you made a statement that Huntington Beach had lost all of their legal challenges. That is false. They still have cards on the table. Have they won? Not necessarily, but they still have cards on the table, and they have the blessing of their counsel to take it all the way up to SCOTUS on their federal side of their lawsuits. And what's enforcing that now is that Michael Gates, their elected attorney, that moved and actually took a job in Washington, D.C. in the DOJ Civil Division, has left there, came back, and now is going to run for AG of California. So I hope that we all put out the word to help endorse him, and he's endorsing Hilton. He will be the bastion for what we need to get our home rule back in order, because he's challenging everything from First Amendment constitutional, and to hopefully put more verbiage in Article 11 where our home rule resides. I want to end this conversation with the fact that Loretta and Chris, I was very appalled and pissed after I heard your comments, and so were my cohorts in crime, so to speak. You are either living under a rock or you have no idea who you're talking. When we talk, we have coalitions and hundreds, and actually on social media, thousands of people that depend on us to do the research and to stand for them, because you guys are having meetings at 3:00 in the afternoon on a Friday. Not that many people can participate in that, number one. And so I think the fact that you were dismissive of the fact that only a few community members have weighed in. No, there's a huge boulder of people behind us when we talk. So be clear on that. And between you two and this whole discussion about urban, why put it on us? It's infrastructure. Rural does not have the infrastructure. I sit on the board of a special district here. The county almost tried to annex us in for potable water. We don't have it. It would cost a minimum of $8,000 to have even hooked up to that property, never mind all of the connections. So in rural, the cost is going to come back on the local community to make up for those bonds that are going to have to get issued for the infrastructure. The urban already has it. So the ignorance was overwhelming, and I was very upset about it. So I'm putting you all on blast for that. As far as the rest of the work and the rest of the committee, I wish it could have been better, but I appreciate the effort. So with that, I yield.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay.
Patty, go ahead and unmute and I can hear your comment.
Yeah, I'm Patty Knifer. I'm also a Penryn resident, and I know at least one person on the Charter Review Committee, I think Dan, was very well aware of how the rezoning to higher density zoning throughout Placer County would affect rural neighborhoods. And I really want to say that I appreciate that. In the Placer County general plan, or even in your housing plan, and then also very small section of your proposed charter review, I think on page 5, you do point out that the rural characteristics of small towns in Placer County are very important to the county itself, to and there needs to be more emphasis on how that's going to be accomplished. We're touted, Placer County is touted on, social media and through the Tourism Bureau as having beautiful rural characteristics. And I don't think that really there's a strong enough emphasis in the charter on how to accomplish that, how to keep the rural. Right now, the rezoning is happening of agricultural and high density parcels into high low density parcels into high density, 20, 30 acres per homes per acre. And this contradicts the vision of Placer County. It contradicts everything that is on the websites and the Facebook, and the way the county is portrayed to visitors and to us residents. So I think the charter should be amended to address how not to deteriorate your rural lifestyles and how to prevent that deterioration. Hope Way, again, overrides the community plan, the general plan, and it approves high density 12 towers of apartment complexes, 200 units in a rural neighborhood. And a charter should address how that can be prevented.
Okay, thank you, Patty.
Donna, go ahead and undo your mic, you got your comment?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
This is Donna Delno, also from Penryn. Number one, I want to say thank you for the wording that you're putting out, that we were just reading over. Number two, we're in the fight for our life in Penryn, as you know, and I wanted to copy what both Erin and Diane have said, and Patty. But I wanted to point out when Loretta said, why do we always hear from the same three people, trying to represent the whole county? I was very offended by that because I am a loan officer. I'm in real estate. I've done this 25 years. We moved to Penryn 25 years ago for our kids. So I'm always fighting for appropriate development. And when I have a Facebook page, Penryn Chit Chat, with 3,100 followers. And when I share information such as there's a meeting, there's a board of supervisors hearing, planning commission, I put it out there for everybody, and I'm fielding comments from thousands of people. And then when something is coming up, I cross-post it to 250,000 people. So it's becoming a full-time job that to manage all this, because I want to get the word out. And what most people I hear, from, as you know, is most of us that have moved here left the big city, came to the country, want to have a little land, a little space, a little bit of freedom. And Placer County is, again, hell-bent on paving over everything and trying to charge us for it. So we've gone viral. We're on the national news. We have Channel 13 texts me all the time, the SACB, all the different channels. They want to know what's going on, and they've been covering this because it's so controversial, because it's so wrong. So the last thing I want to say, what Patty just said, I brought this up a couple years back at different meetings, that too bad we couldn't have Penryn and a couple little towns be a little bit of the buffer town between the bigger areas that have the infrastructure. Because what we're worried about is they're going to try to prove this behemoth, choke down our Penryn Road, which is an evacuation route. I lost my whole train of thought. They're just going to choke it all down and then come back and try to raise our taxes to say, okay, well, now we need a new sewer line, and now we need a new water line, and da 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 da. So my next campaign will be going door to door to say vote no on any bonds, because we didn't ask for this big project. It's too big. We've asked all the way along for 59 units or less and make it fit in with the zoning across the street and next door, which are, smaller parcels per acre, and then it would not be so controversial and we would welcome it. So I just hope you'll listen and do the right thing and help us protect the rural lifestyle that we have. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Donna. Okay. That's it for public comment. I'll go ahead and close that. That was for items not on the agenda. We're going to go to our first item on the agenda, which is approval of minutes from December 8th. I'll go ahead and open that up for public comment. Is there anyone here in the room that would like to talk about the minutes or discuss that first item?
I wasn't able to attend, but it was a good job.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Put that in the minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, put that
Wow,
in the minutes
good,
also,
good,
yeah.
good job. We'll wait,
Thank you.
anyone online? Okay, this does take a motion for approval.
Moved. Second.
First and a second, we'll do a roll call vote for approval of the minutes.
Then Mayshu seconded.
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Naish,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Woodward,
Yes.
Alessi,
Yes.
Herzog.
Yes. Okay, the next item on the agenda is discussion and approval of the final report from the Charter Review Committee to the Board of Supervisors. Ben, you gonna take this?
Yes.
Okay, so go ahead and turn it over to you.
Good afternoon, Chair and committee members. Ben Mills with the County Executive Office. This final report represents the culmination of an 8-month publicly engaged review process. The committee held 5 publicly noticed meetings, allowing for in-person and virtual participation, ensuring transparency, accessibility, and meaningful community input. The final report is organized into 3 categories, which are formal recommendations for board consideration, items studied that required no further action, and advisory comments outside the scope of the charter. The committee is forwarding 3 formal charter recommendations to the board, which are updating the process for filling board vacancies, improving the competitiveness in the hiring of the county executive officer, and updating the methodology used to establish board compensation. There were also numerous additional topics that the committee studied and determined no action is necessary that are documented in the report. The report is also conveying an advisory comment to the board outside the scope of the charter regarding land use and housing policy. And lastly, on behalf of the County Executive Office, I'd like to extend our appreciation to the public and to the committee members for their time, professionalism, and commitment for a thorough and transparent review process that resulted in this final report. And I look forward to your committee's discussion on this item. And I'd ask if there are any amendments to the report that you are able to provide that language to us and provide it in a formal motion so that we may amend it. So with that,
Okay.
that concludes my presentation. I appreciate it.
Okay, before I open public comment, do you guys have any questions for staff? Not indicating, we're not in discussion, we're not leaning towards a decision. Do you guys have any questions for staff based on the report?
I have one question. How does this get converted into a ballot measure?
So the next steps, if you approve this report, would be a docket onto a board agenda. We would go through a public meeting at the Board of Supervisors. The board then has the discretion to either approve any of these recommendations, amend the recommendations, or not approve the recommendations. If they approve any of those, we would then move forward with drafting ballot measure language, the pros, the cons, the fors, the against.
Okay.
And then it would be a process through the clerk recorders.
Okay. To me, and that's good explanation. It was just that as I read this, I felt like this may work for county code, but if this type of language winds up on a ballot measure, everybody's going to tilt because it's really hard to work through some of these things. So if somebody drafts ballot measure stuff, then that gets approved by the supervisors. Is that what ultimately happens?
Correct.
Okay, great.
Any others? Okay, I'm gonna open public comment on the report. And so anyone here in the room wish to speak on any of, yeah,
I hope I have enough. Can I get you to pass these around?
yeah, we should.
Look, I'll take the specs and I'll use it tomorrow. Look.
We haven't started your time yet.
Oh, good, thank you. Here's another one. Here's another one. Here's another.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, thank you. There's one more.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
So Cheryl Berkema, thank you for putting the advisory comment in. I appreciate that. And since we started on performance, I still want to end on performance. This is what I'm going to call the yardstick for Placer County. This is what we're measured on in our general plan. There's 7 elements mandated by state, and one of them is the housing element. The housing element, if you look, those numbers are contractual. The supervisors agreed to them, and if you look, the percentages, this is from the 2024, which is the last published end of the year, that they're required to send an update to the HCD to the state. This is from that update. So 2025 is pretty close to that, but I'd like to call out 0% very low, 14% low, 22% moderate, 86% above moderate. So if you look at those numbers, and 2025 was pretty much the same in terms of we're not putting in the types of things that we need. And my concern with the CEO's office currently, to their credit, I complained enough in public about the lack of performance metrics that they actually did have a review this year. I didn't have time to go through all of it, but basically at least they put it on. My concern is that we had a CEO and a board of supervisors that sat there for years. There was recently a public records request for the Andy Sisk, the auditor controller, to produce the number of affordable units, not counting ADUs because developers don't have to build them. They basically get these entitlements for thousands of units, and what they do then is they get to sign off on affordable housing, which is why these numbers are not changing. For 25 years, there were 450 units built of affordable in Placer County. So if you look at this as halfway through the cycle, and if you look now at these numbers, we're not going to change 0 to 2127 in the next 4 years, 4.5 years, whatever. So if you look at the lack of performance, we're not using the measuring stick. The same people that do housing and do the development work for the same department head. And that department head reports up through Cedra to the CEO. The CEO sat there and never once said, let me raise my hand and fix this. This is bad. Every year they do this, and the supervisors look and they hang their head in shame and go, yeah, we didn't deliver again. But somebody's job is to actually manage this yardstick. When they look at developments, they're looking at a ruler, and they pretend that that ruler is okay with the affordable housing requirements. So is that my 3 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I would like to, again, thank you for putting that comment in, but I'd ask you to please put some performance language into that CEO charter review. I'm not sure what it's called, the actual charter review element that you're putting in, because I think that qualifications means if you can't do performance, you shouldn't be a CEO. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Cheryl. Anyone else in person? Online.
Simon, go ahead and unmute your mic.
Greetings again, committee. This is Diane Louise Alessi from Christian Valley Park. And thank you, Cheryl. That was perfect. So I echo what Cheryl is stating. I just want to carry a little bit further in terms of we have a maximum on the Board of Supervisors' ability to get pay raises and or the county executive. But the 10%, I think, still should be tied to what the performance of the overall conditions, not just what the other counties are, supervisors are getting in their pay, but also what the performance is in terms of what our revenues are, how healthy we are as a county, not just based on that. So that bothers me. And that's kind of as much as I would have liked better outcomes for this review. That's probably where I'll leave it because Cheryl pretty much covered the other side of it. I would just reiterate to this committee why it's such a pinch and pain point for Placer County in RHNA Cycle 6 is because Home Rule protected us up to RHNA Cycle 6 when the governor pulled the shenanigans of saying statewide concern because there wasn't enough language in the Constitution. And this county needs to actually get a syndicate of the counties and home rule charter cities. And I wish the charter would have addressed that as well, so that we can not just let Huntington Beach go out on a raft on their own, but actually get behind where we want to be. We want to be in control of our own destiny and what we look like. So with that, thank you very much, and I yield.
Thank you. Anyone else?
No other hands raised.
Okay. I'll go ahead and close public comment at this time for the report. And there's a lot in here. I hope you guys have taken the time to read it, to think about it, think about how it's presented to the Board of Supervisors and how they're going to interpret it. And so as we share our thoughts today, if we can be really clear which area we're talking about in the report and go there together, that'd be very helpful. So, Loretta, can I start with you? Do you have anything you want to?
I first of all, if this is the right time, I heard two specific comments in the original public comments. And I think that are these sessions recorded?
Yes.
I think that there should be an opportunity for a couple of them to review the sessions because there were some inaccurate statements addressed in the public comments. The second thing is that I think, first of all, the summaries really reflect our discussion that we had. And based on the discussions we had, I'm very comfortable with the way and I don't know if it's my comfort level because we've had so many discussions about it. I didn't really see anything that stood out in regards to things that made me uncomfortable in terms of how it goes to the supervisor. But other than that, those are my comments.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
Similar comments. I really just want to make sure that the public understands and that this is our fifth meeting. We've had hours of discussion and debate on these topics. That particularly topic of great interest has been the RHNA and the land development issues going on in our rural community. I hope that the public takes from this that, and I can't speak for the entire board, but I think everybody on this board understands and appreciates what's happening, particularly in the Penryn example. And I think there's a very high degree of empathy for that. I know in my personal case there is. So I personally have lived about most of my adult life in communities very similar to Penryn. The issue before us is the charter. And that it's not a misunderstanding of what's happening, I don't believe, by anybody here. It's not a lack of appreciation. It's simply that the charter is what's before us. And we haven't been able to identify a means where, at least that we've had in our discussions and votes as an overall majority, certainly speaking for myself, that where the charter can resolve that. So there may be disagreement about that, but that's where that lands. And I make that comment not to re-debate it, but I don't want anybody listening to our communications to think we didn't grasp what those comments have been about. I know I certainly am very heartfelt about them. I just personally don't see this as the venue to resolve those. With that, I deeply appreciate the work that staff has done and council. Really greatly appreciate their feedback. I think they've really helped guide us and put us in the right places for what's before us. There's been a few remarks about the CEO, and I want to say our CEO has been at most of these meetings. And I greatly appreciate his participation and feedback to us. That's been not a lot of CEOs would do that, quite frankly. And I've certainly very much enjoyed being on this panel with my fellow commissioners here. So with that, that's all of my comments.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Troy.
Sure. Just to the general tenor of our conversations and the work that we've been able to put in. I'm pleased that we've had a nice, well-rounded, but also focused plan of making sure that we're seeing how the charter can be dealt with, in particular, because there might be a little dissonance between what the public is really pushing for and what we're actually able to do as far as amending the charter in the long run. I'm personally of the belief, and I don't know if we're gonna parse out parts of the report for further comment or elaboration, but I'm feeling like at least in our advisory statement back to the board regarding RENA, that it be elaborated on further. I would hope that we can communicate a little bit more completely, that the majority of the public comments and feedback have been for us to try and figure out a way to deal with this at a charter level if we can. We may have failed this time around, but ultimately we need to give some sort of extra language that at least tries to pull at the heartstrings of the board and say, like, we would like to change the charter to give you guys a little bit more of a backbone or resistance to what these state mandates are, but in order to maintain the character of the county and the desire of the people to better represent them, do whatever you can, whether it's in the public planning commission, whether it's in your guys's willingness to negotiate these like sorts of RENA numbers that Cheryl shared with us, that we need to find a way of relieving this pressure valve, or find the pressure valve for a lot of what is coming our way, because I think we'd all love for the focus to be entirely on each provision of the charter and being able to go at it at a granular level like that. But I think, trying to marry up what sort of comments we've had with what we can accomplish needs to be communicated to the board in the long run.
Do you have any thoughts on how, just kind of going back to what staff requested, of how you might change this committee?
I would only add
do you want
to
to
it.
Okay, go ahead.
And I had written down, it is this committee's finding that while unable to amend the charter in such a way as to resist RENA directly, we have had the
sorry.
overwhelming feedback that the board
Page are
finds.
you on?
It's on page 5. I'm talking about the language of page
Yeah,
5.
so right after the italicized area, protected rural and low density regions, to give them a little bit more of like a personal
Can you say it again?
insight.
Sorry, you got.
Hey, Troy,
Could you
do
read
you
it?
mind reading it a little slower?
Yes,
So that I
yeah,
can
that's
actually-
sorry. It is this committee's findings that while unable to, sorry. It is this committee's findings that while unable to amend the charter in such a way as to resist RENA directly, we have had the overwhelming feedback that we or the board find a way to better represent the public in maintaining the character of county. I'm obviously open to any suggestions or thoughts on how to tweak that, but I think it's just much more of a personal statement rather than the factual findings that I think need to be reinforced from every angle, because obviously for what public participation we are having, they're attacking this from all angles. They go to the planning commission, they go to us, they go to the board, and they don't feel like they're being able to break through on this, because no opportunities or avenues have been found to at least tell the board that if there is an opportunity to figure out something else that they should explore it.
I can, my initial thought is that this statement is a little contrary to what we were trying to share with the board. Because I thought we were saying with the board that this obligation goes back to the general plan. And if we come back and say we are unable to amend the charter, I think that that's contradictory in a way.
Well,
Because I thought the discussion we had in the last meeting was centered around the fact that the requests that we heard didn't fall within the wherewithal of the charter. So if we come back and say we were unable to amend the charter, I think we're conflicting ourselves with the statements that we put in here in the board packet.
I think it's because or at least as I'm thinking about it, it's the trickle down effect. You know, the charter is what forms our local government, and ideally we've tried to explore a way to amend the charter so that way that trickle down effect would affect the general plan.
Okay, I hear what you're saying, but I still think it's contradictory.
Okay.
Okay.
So I have a suggestion, and I think that what you're trying to do would be better suited in the preamble. In other words, we've got a couple of paragraphs that describe sort of how we got to where we are.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have a nice succinct statement, which is our effort to try to convey a policy recommendation. And I think the comments that you're trying to add shouldn't be part of that policy recommendation if they get incorporated at all.
Right.
They should be in the staff comments reciting how we got to this place. But I wouldn't amend the italicized recommendation.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, and I could agree with that as far as the overall format goes, but maybe, yeah, something further along the lines of how you as the staff have prepared that potential policy statement. Just we've tried to diversify our time to address as many issues as we can, but obviously this has been like an overwhelming topic, and I think it should be reflected as far as how much time we tried to spend dealing with it.
And I hear what you're saying, but this item is in a category that is additional information to the Board of Supervisors. And so I guess I'm having a little difficulty with us trying to tie it to amending the charter when we're pretty much saying that it is something that we think that the supervisors should hear, because we all heard the comments that came as a result of us participating in these meetings. But by the fact that it's in this category, we're clearly saying that it's outside of the charter. So if we come back and say that we're trying to get this done via the charter, then I think that we're taking this off the list of that category as additional information for the supervisors. And that's what I'm trying to get an understanding of, because if you go into that Board of Supervisors meeting and we clearly lay out the categories of the items that we're recommending that go before the voters, and we start talking about the fact that we were unable to amend the charter, we're going to get into a large discussion about amending the charter rather than trying to get what we want before the supervisors.
I do see what you're saying, but I think given how much headway we were making towards actually making an amendment proposal, Einer had a motion for a specific article and section of the charter to try and incorporate this language. It goes to staff and general counsel. They come back to us at the next meeting and says, we don't see it as viable.
Well, we didn't.
But I think because they're not going to go through our previous minutes to review that as part of their final report. I think being able to state that we went so far as to try and make language suggestions for a particular article and section to try and actually give you guys a little bit more teeth to address this issue. That's why, as far as an advisory point goes, you know, this is something we've spent a ton of time on to try and address. And yes, we've ultimately come to the conclusion that the general plan is the best way of addressing this.
I don't think it's fair to say that the staff came back and said, no, you can't do it. I think as a group, we came back together as a committee and decided to go in this direction.
Well,
It-
Finer made the
Yeah.
suggestion for the article and motion, and section amendment. Language was roughly drawn. It goes to Clayton and staff, and we asked for it to come back in a more polished fashion. And instead, it was brought back to us as a point of discussion for non-viability.
Well, but I don't think that, well, I'll leave it up to the chair, but I think the way that discussion went was, we were not all on the same page.
Well, I do feel like the suggested language is a little redundant
Yeah.
because it's kind of in the first part as I reread it. And so I feel like it's addressed in at least the first paragraph where, you know, the county attempted and then it doesn't fit. And so
I was just like, because the italicized part is that what they're gonna focus on.
Yeah.
You know, like I just don't want to
what I
leave
do
any
want
opportunity for them to just gloss over the fact.
what I do appreciate with Cheryl's data here is the reference to this APR. And I think referencing, you know, that we understand the concern here. We're not producing our obligation at very low, and so it's going to put pressure on. And referencing the APR, which they have seen, right?
Correct.
And they're aware of. I don't think we need to relist any numbers. I think, you know, I think it has been brought to our attention that there's concern based on the APR reports. And we're putting ourselves in a real difficult position to meet our obligation. And so I think referencing that does bring more weight to this document. And I appreciate you bringing this to us because it's helpful in these recommendations, which is outside of really what we're doing. But I could see that really bolstering the attention of this piece to the Board of Supervisors, which we can't force them to even, you know, pay attention to this.
Right.
But I think the reference of APR could be inserted in here.
I agree with that.
People are comfortable with that.
I agree with that.
Okay.
I guess I need a little more clarification because I there seems to be an underlying assumption that the Board of Supervisors lacks full awareness of what's going on here around RENA. And I think that's a completely inaccurate description. There is no way our Board of Supervisors are not totally aware of everything that's been discussed in this committee. They almost certainly have heard all of these points made by the public many times, and they voted the way they voted because of their own reasons. And while empathetic and sympathetic to what's going on here, I don't think our Board of Supervisors disagrees with the interest of making RENA go away. In fact, I seriously doubt there's a single Board of Supervisors in the state of California that likes what's going on here with RENA. So I'm really reluctant here to support something that sort of picks at our Board of Supervisors or our CEO and accuses them of, you know, doing wrongdoing or not, maybe not wrongdoing, but not having a good policy approach because of state mandates. Now, again, what's going on in Penryn and there's plenty of other situations like Penryn, maybe Penryn, of course, is unique, but that's not the only situation where the RENA policy is having a negative effect on the citizens of Placid. I mentioned this before. My own neighborhood has got this exact same issue. So I don't think we should have a statement in here that is, the statement you provided to me was very ambiguous. It was very subjective. I don't know what better county means. You know, I think that means different things to different people. So we got to be a little careful here, I think, of kind of getting into personal slash what you might say political statement that instead of something more specific around what the charter is. As far as sharing, or in terms of what the scope of the charter is, as in terms of sharing this experience we've had, we have an item on our agenda about who's presenting this to the board, right, on behalf of the committee. I don't think choosing somebody prohibits other committee members, we can obviously talk about that, from coming in and expressing, you know, their observations of being on the committee. And that might be a far better place to make those comments. Because that way you can reflect what any committee member can reflect what they've heard and understood from the public, their own perspective as a citizen and member of the committee. And it doesn't obligate all of us to lay down a vote, because what you read at the moment, I'm a no on that. I just don't think it solves anything. And it's a little too ambiguous for me. And I'm a little, I don't really want to get into RENA numbers. I just think that is outside of our scope of practice. That's the policy professionals at the committee staff or county staff level, and the obligation of the elected officials who have to make those determinations on, you know, in the planning commission, so on and so forth. So that's my thoughts.
Okay.
My turn?
Keep sharing. Yeah.
I thought staff did a really excellent job putting together this report. I enjoyed reading it, and I thought you did great. I was on the same item that we were discussing before. I was wondering about whether or not it makes sense to change the word encourage to require.
Where
Where are you?
So on page 5,
Mhm.
Third
you know,
line.
in the italicized, it says, you know, protect rural and low density regions of the county from encroachment of high density development, which is inconsistent with the character of the local community or the zoning of neighborhood lands, and enact policies that encourage developers to build affordable housing sufficient to meet state requirements. And I was, you know, I don't have strong feelings, but as I read that, I said, I wonder if that word should be require instead of encourage. And I realized that this is just advisory, you know, I mean, they're going to do whatever they're going to do, but
yeah. Let me finish this. Yeah.
and so I'm not making a motion. I'm just bringing it up for discussion. If anybody else had thought about that.
I did. You know, when we did this, I thought about that. And here I think is a challenge with that last clause, starting with enact policies that encourage or require developers to, et cetera. Right now, today, I think the Board of Supervisors would say, we do have policies. Our practice does require and encourage developers to meet state requirements. We just don't like the way that's happening, right? In other words, there are a variety of provisions, and I don't want to, I forget some of the practices Placer County specifically does, but there are a variety of provisions under which the county approves development to accomplish affordable housing goals. And they may not be meeting those RENA standards very well, keeping in mind the RENA standards kind of came along later. So it's a little hard to meet them in a short term. But again, that's a little subjective. Do you mean, for example, that a developer who puts in, say, any development over 10 housing units must have some kind of affordable housing included? Is that what you mean? So that it doesn't end up being a big project in Penryn to catch up on the requirements? I mean, what is it we mean when we say that? Because if I'm a supervisor, I would look at that and go, I've done that. That's what we're doing. That's what the county policy has been. And over time, these numbers will get better. That would be my response if I were on the supervisor or the soups.
Yeah, well, you know, actually, my second thought is that we're blending two different things. You know, protecting rural and low density regions is one thing. You know, I'm no fan of RENA numbers, and And I wouldn't voluntarily put something in that says that they've got to do a better job of building more arena numbers. I don't think that's the problem. We heard from the public, they're not building enough arena numbers. And then the next thing we hear is they're building them in the wrong place. Right? Those are almost two things going in different directions. I don't like arena numbers, but so I don't know.
I'd like to expand on that because I totally understand what you're saying. It's like once RENA does get implemented for certain projects, it then ends up falling through. And I'm trying to look up again, maybe we could address that with the particular statute that addresses in lieu fees, because I think that ends up touching upon the part that Cheryl was bringing up for us on how to possibly give some sort of advisory comment to them.
Yeah, I thought we knew that the county, at least for a while, had a policy of you don't have to build it, you can just pay a fee.
That's right.
And so this was an attempt to say, no, you can't just pay the fee, you gotta actually build it. But yeah,
It's six.
I also agree that they're gonna look at this and say, well, we did that.
Well,
Or we try to do that.
But can they not amend this 15.65.120 statute? Because isn't this a county?
Yeah,
code?
that's a section of the county code that can be amended by the Board of Supervisors. I would say the general requirement for affordable housing is that a housing development project of under 100 units does have the possibility of paying an in lieu fee in lieu of constructing the affordable housing. Any development projects over 100 units have to construct a 10% affordable housing requirement. That 10% affordable housing is broken up 4% for very low, 4% for low, and 2% for moderate income.
Yeah, okay. I didn't know that. That's good.
But they're not building it. They're not doing that, right?
So
they haven't done it.
those are the requirements in the general plan. So any project that comes through has to be consistent with the general plan. There have been equivalency proposals that have been provided that have talked about providing land instead of their construction requirement. And those are considered on a case-by-case basis, usually by the Board of Supervisors.
So I'll just make a couple of quick comments here. I think this is pretty instructive that we are spending so much time on what is an advisory piece of language, which is frankly not even associated with the charter. So it tells you what the urgency should be in the minds of everybody in the county, because clearly this is something that people who come in here and talk about this consider urgent. My experience as a planning commissioner is that the staff is pretty sharp on this stuff. And the supervisors are very capable and very aware, as people have pointed out. However, I don't think they share the urgency that at least 3 years ago or 2 years ago, I don't think they shared the urgency of the general public on this. And I think I can point to many examples, but one clearly stands out to me, which is when we had our mother of all zoning meetings, or rezoning meetings, and the planning director at the time was not present, but it's a matter of public record, so I can freely talk about it. He said, we are early in the cycle and we're making steady progress. And my point to him was the cycle started 20 years ago. He was talking about when the housing element was created. He said that's the start of the cycle, and we were a couple of years into it. But the cycle started 20 years ago. It's a problem that's been in this county forever. So flash forward a little bit into that conversation during that day, and we established a task to the county staff, to benchmark other counties in the state and find out how they are meeting their arena numbers and how they are meeting their low and very low requirements, and do a study. And that was due in February of 2025, and the county is bringing it forward in February of 2026. So that tells you again, at least in my judgment, that the county staff lacks the urgency that the general public in the county feels they should. So in any event, we are where we are. And I don't mean to oversell this, but I am hopeful that when that study is briefed, and I've mentioned this 3 or 4 times, and Cheryl and others who might be listening, please send this out to everybody. Show up on the day that that study is briefed. And if they failed to do their job, and if the Board of Supervisors says, this is a great coffee table book, but you know what, we're not going to implement any of this stuff, and we don't care, revolt, period. Because that study is designed to prevent having to rezone locations in the county, and it's designed to drive us to focus on general plan and specific and area plans and that sort of thing, and to kind of keep those things sacred. So I encourage you to do that. Regarding the specifics here, I appreciated your language, but I agree. I found it to be a bit ambiguous. I'm fairly comfortable with what we've written down here. And I know your comment about encourage versus require. I think if we do that, this language we're proposing goes into the general plan. I think if we try to do that, then I think it will probably not make, because I think they will view it as too restrictive. Whereas if you have encourage there, that's a perfectly viable thing. I agree. I would prefer to have require, but I don't think it would make it into the general plan that way. So those are my
We have
views.
both.
Chris, I appreciate your comments, everyone's comments, but some might think even on this committee, why does the chair allow this conversation to continue? And it's something that's not even, because I am passionate about public opinion. It is important for me. I think the public has very few conduits by which they can communicate their needs and what's important to them. And as Dan mentioned, I think staff isn't responding enough to the public about this. And so I feel like we have an obligation to make sure we tell the story about what we experienced to the Board of Supervisors so that they can also have the information. And I think, they just have limited opportunities to share their thoughts, the public that is. And so I appreciate when topics are brought up, even if they're unrelated, finding a way to express the concerns and challenges you're facing for the public will be limited. And so I'm comfortable with the way the language is written. I don't think we need to add anything to it. I appreciate the thoughts around making it more restrictive. Maybe, but I do think the additional piece is a little redundant with what's already stated here. And I agree that the Board of Supervisors understands the importance of it, but I think we also need to communicate the importance of what we've experienced on our committee. So that's why I've allowed this to be part of it and have discussion around it. We've talked about this the most, and making sure that at least coming from the committee is something that's representative of all of us. Otherwise, as Chris mentioned, I think an individual standing up on the day of presentation is welcome to do that as well. I was kind of going through, did you finish all of your thoughts?
Yes.
If we move on past this item, did you have any other?
No, I thought the rest of it was all excellent.
I'm going through my process here, I'm sorry. And then Dan, did you have any comments? I think you were wondering about number 1.
Yeah, no additional comments on this particular topic, and but I do think it's critically important. But beyond that, I want to express my appreciation and thanks to the staff that have done this work and brought us all together here. To my colleagues as well, thank you very much, and to the public, of course, as well. Regarding Nathan's reference, I had a sidebar conversation with him about item 1. I have to admit that when I read it last night, I thought it was pretty convoluted language. On the other hand, since this is going to be written differently as a ballot measure, it's probably fine for county code, and so I'm okay with it. I actually rewrote it, but the fact is, as I've read it again, it's probably fine. So other than that, nothing.
Okay. All right, well, I appreciate everyone's comment. I don't have anything to add, which hasn't already been stated. I also want to thank the public for their comments throughout the process, all 5 meetings that we've held. Apologies that we didn't get up to Tahoe, but we did make sure to make all of these meetings available online. And so that kind of justified not returning there after we had a weather issue. But thanks to the public, thank you to staff, excellent report. I think, you know, these challenging topics, I think we have gotten down to a statement that I think we're comfortable with, that moving forward is a recommendation. And then also the informational items. And thank you for keeping a record of the topics we discuss. I think it's important to also include in the report that we didn't just limit ourselves to items that we're making recommendations to. We really thought through a lot of topics, and staff again, and council, you guys helped equip us with information and research that allowed us to make good decisions there. So thank you with the charter. And then the HR that showed up in attendance regularly. I want to appreciate, you know, you being here and all that you've done is CEO's office and many of the public. We had supervisors show up to our meetings. We had lots of elected officials, and I think, you know, this is really important because it's one way we can set ourselves apart as a county. It's one of the tools that we have. So that being said, on this agenda item, we've finished our discussion. We've listened to the public on this topic. I feel like we're at a place where if someone would like to make a motion on this item, we can do that.
I would.
Okay.
I would move that the committee approve as presented in the staff report today. Starting on page 2, the items titled Committee Recommendations for Board Consideration, and the 3 items that follow on page 2 and 3, and the section items studied and determined to require no further action on page 3, and all the ensuing items through page 4 and and then at the top of page 5, the committee advisory comments outside the scope of the charter as presented with the italicized language as our final report for recommendation to the Board of Supervisors.
That was a great.
That was excellent.
Yeah. Aaron, did you that?
Practicing that for 3 months.
Did you second?
Yeah, I would.
Wait, before we do a second, just want to clarify that this is your motion is to approve the entire report.
Yeah.
Correct. Right.
It's another way of saying it. Yeah.
I like the way you said it.
Yes, yes.
My way had more. It's gonna get more votes at the Board of Supervisors the way I presented it.
No, yeah, yours is much more eloquent. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't like missing something, if there was like a sentence left off or.
And then we did have a.
Yeah, I second. Yes.
So we'll do a roll call vote.
Johnson,
Aye.
Walker,
Aye.
Hooper,
Aye.
Maish,
Aye.
Alessi,
Yes.
Herzog.
Yes. Okay, we have a final agenda item, and that's for the committee discussion to determine whether the committee should designate a representative to present and report on the final report to the Board of Supervisors at a future publicly noticed board meeting. I'm going to open up for public comment first, and then we'll bring it back to us to discuss. But anyone from the public like to share?
I have worked with the general before, and he's represented us well in our district, and I would actually hope that he would get to speak.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Cheryl.
Was that able to be captured on the recording?
Especially the emphasis on general.
Anyone online? Okay, let's go through the online. Oh, were you?
After public comment, I believe staff did want to just provide a little bit of information on this item.
Yeah, that's.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Yeah,
We should do that before public comment, so they have all the information.
That would be the normal way to do it, but I.
Yeah, no,
we
sorry.
Started. public comment.
I didn't know you had something to share. Okay, sorry, can I come back to you? Can you ask her if she's okay if to come back to her?
Diane, did you hear that? Is it okay, we're gonna get staff report first and then we'll come back to you, okay?
That's fine.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I just wanted to provide a little bit of clarity on when we would likely bring this report back to the board in case there's any obligations from any of the committee members. So in coordination with the clerk of the board, it's likely that we would bring this final report to a public meeting to the board either at the end of March or the beginning of April. So just wanted to make sure that that was clarified with the committee in the event there might be obligations elsewhere.
What, is that a Tuesday?
Yes, correct. Those are Tuesdays. I don't have the specific dates on me.
Is it first and third Tuesdays or second and fourth? Board meeting.
Every other, I don't know which one. Give me a second.
Oh, it's every other.
While staff's looking, I should also note for this. This item is to select somebody that would speak on behalf of the committee as the entirety. All of the committee members are certainly welcome to show up at the board and provide their comments from their personal perspective as to what the committee reached. But this action itself is to have that person that speaks with the power of the entire committee.
And am I incorrect that in the previous report out from the previous charter review committee, didn't the staff person actually present the report? And the board of supervisors actually reached out to the representative of the committee when they had specific questions.
Yes, so much like any of the items that go to our board, staff will have a presentation, will present the report. This would just be simply for after staff's presentation of the report and the items identified, stand up and say whatever that person would like to with respect to the committee's perception or feelings with respect to it.
Yeah, before we got into public.
Before
comments.
public
Yeah, that would be great.
That's
right.
Thank you. That's my house.
Okay, is that it? Or are we still waiting for the dates?
So I believe the dates for, board meeting for end of, March would be, March 24th. And then, for April, it would be April 14th. Would be the first meeting.
And those meetings are held here. They don't alternate into Tahoe at all and anything.
They
Right.
do.
Would they?
We have Tahoe board meetings, but those are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's not here, it's over.
Well, Auburn. I mean.
Yeah, Auburn, yeah.
Thank you.
is that it?
That's it.
Okay, I'll open back up to public comment and your comment stands. Or would you like to add anything?
Do you want to say it louder? You have to repeat it for the record, apparently.
Dan Woodward was because I've worked with him at a project level. I thought he represented our district extremely well. He prepared for the supervisor. He's very articulate and I think he comes across with a sense of fairness. And I think that because of the volatility of a lot of the topics that come up, that he has that air about him, presence and fairness.
Great presentation. I love you, Cheryl.
Okay.
Work to do.
We'll go to online.
Hey, Diane, you can unmute your mic.
Greetings again. Diane Louise Alessi, Crescent Valley Park. Thank you, Cheryl, because I was just going to ask for Mr. Woodward to step up to be the presenter. I really appreciated you during that painful meeting when you were a commissioner on the planning. So I think you're the perfect person to do this presentation to the board, and I would appreciate you getting the support from the committee to do so. Thank you. I yield.
Someone else?
Yeah, Karen. Patty, go ahead and unmute your mic and give your comment.
Yeah, hi, it's Patty Knifer. Things got really quiet, so I'm not 100% sure if this addresses the actual vote that's coming up, if it's adopting the charter, or who will present.
Yeah. who will
But
present?
either way, if you don't mind that I speak toward the charter, I just wanted to really recognize how in your conversations, this last half hour, how important and how much appreciated it is that you're looking at the layout of the housing in Placer County and especially the rural areas. I know there are a lot of things in the charter that you're addressing, but just hearing that the voices are being heard and that it is a priority for many, many residents of the rural communities that you're addressing, whether it is allowed to be included in the charter or whether you can make differences or not with the charter that you're adopting, almost isn't even the issue. The issue is you're hearing the public and you know how important it is to keep the character of all of Placer County intact and really preserve those areas that are so special to the community. So I just wanted to thank each of you for recognizing that. And I did hear it in many of your comments that is something that whether the charter can address it or not, that you are understanding and you'll carry that forward. Thank you.
Okay, we'll close public comments.
The board, which is correct. There is a board meeting on April 7th and April 14th, but the meeting got moved to the end of the week. So I was re-aired, but it's
Okay.
April 7th or 14th. And then March 21st.
Okay. Okay, we'll bring it back to the team here for discussion. Represent.
I'm just going based on my previous experience with this charter process. I think the Board of Supervisors is going to automatically reach out to the board, to the committee chair. And I just don't want you not to be prepared for that, regardless of what we do, because the questions were always, the way I recalled it, were always directed to the committee chair.
I won't be able to be there.
Oh, you won't be able to be there?
No.
You have a vice chair.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
That's his role as the vice chair. Alex, yeah, he is.
Yeah. I'm certainly open to it, whether it's just to support Dan, or otherwise, because I totally agree with the general sentiment that, given his, overall respect that he demands in the community and his knowledge of and articulation of what's transpired on the committee, I think is excellent representation of us. I'd be more than happy to lend a hand or, be backup if for some reason he has a scheduling issue with any of those days. But,
Yeah, I just didn't want anybody to be surprised, that's all.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am more comfortable doing this. I'm extremely uncomfortable with compliments, so if we could move on, it would be appreciated. I'm comfortable doing this. If we want me to do it, it's fine with me.
Okay.
And I would be very glad to have backup and that sort of thing as well.
Yeah, just to be clear, I have taken a job and so I'll be moving. I start in March.
Oh,
So
well, congratulations.
March 1st. Yeah.
Are you moving out of Placer County
Yeah.
yeah.
on March 1st?
Yeah.
Does this put the whole thing in?
No.
Congratulations.
Oh, do we have to do this over now?
All of it's
I
void.
hadn't even thought about this.
Yeah. Well, we can have a motion.
Yes, I'll motion for Dan to be the representative and I will be there to support him any way needed.
Second. Okay, first and the second, we're voting on Dan to represent us and have a backup. And so we'll do roll call vote for that.
Alessi,
Yes.
Finch,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Johnson,
Aye.
Woodward,
Yes.
Farina,
Aye.
Herzog.
Yes. Let the record show that we have Larry that showed up.
Yeah.
For the last time. This is time for that. It's lucky, we were gonna nominate you if you weren't. I would have deserved that.
I do apologize for my tardiness.
I do want to say some last words, and we've kind of all indicated this, but you know, before we adjourn, I just want to take a moment to thank the committee members here. It's thankless. Really, what we do is volunteer. And so, and sometimes it can be challenging, you know, to put energy and time into this, but you guys did that. You guys all represented your areas well. You put in a lot of good work and energy and thought, and you didn't back down. I mean, you guys we had some really great conversation, and I'd really like to thank each one of you for being a part of this. I'd also like to thank all of the comments you've made, the thoughtful deliberation, collegial approach that we've had, the diverse perspectives represented on the committee contributed to a balanced and thoughtful set of recommendations. I'd also like to recognize staff in particular for this event. This is once every 5 years, you know, and you guys put a lot of, we gave you a lot of challenging tasks to think about that really may not have fit well, but you took it on, and you did your best, and you gave us everything we needed to make our decisions. So we have the county executive office, county council, human resources, the clerk of the board, supporting departments for their thorough research and responsiveness and professionalism. Your work provided the necessary foundation for informed decision-making throughout this process. And our final report reflects the collective efforts of all participants and is respectfully submitted to the Board of Supervisors as a clear, organized record of the committee's recommendation and determinations for the board's consideration. And also just want to lastly thank the public for your engagement and involvement. I think we've had good representation at a variety of meetings, and so thank you for what you've done. And we'll go ahead and move to adjourn.
Thank you, Nathan.
Yeah.
I think
Thank
you
you.
did great.
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent chair, way to keep it to quorum.
You did. Thanks.